Hello class, my name is Paul. I'm the primary instructor of CSE 8A. In this recording, we'll talk about the syllabus and get started with basic Python programming on print statements, on how to use functions, and do some exercises. The materials that I use in this class were developed by me and many other faculty members from the CSE department at UC San Diego, including Gerald, Soren, Joe, Mia, and many other people. So some quick words about me. This is an old picture. The kids are much bigger now. We came to UCSD in 2015. Before coming to UCSD, I was teaching at liberal arts colleges, which are much smaller than UCSD. My research area is mostly in CS education. Specifically, I focus on K-12 education. I do a lot of teaching in elementary, middle school, and high schools. At UC San Diego, I pretty much have taught all the lower division classes and tutor training, which is CSE 95. When I'm not working, I usually do grocery shopping, cooking for the family, and I like to do some DIY projects. I look forward to working with you all for this class. So the first thing is the syllabus. So I want to spend some time going through the syllabus and talk about the materials that are important in here. So you can find the syllabus in the lessons section of AddStem. There are a few important links. Number one, the Zoom link. This is where we meet for all our lectures. Just come here. There is no password. Come to the live lecture in here. The class forum, which is AddStem. You submit your assignments in here, submit your labs in here. The midterm and final will use another platform called Gradescope. It has better management and content development tools are better over there, so we'll use Gradescope. Your gradebook will be on Canvas, and you can see the calendars in here. You can see when we have our lectures, as well as the tutor hours. If you need to see a tutor in here, for example, you say, I need to see tutor hours at this time. Let me put in, so this is Gio's tutor hours, and he will put in his Zoom link in here once it's time. We're still trying to sort out a few things about professional versions of the Zoom link. So this is kind of what we have in here. For example, Jenny, and so you can see all the tutor hours. We meet for our lectures, and then we have the problem sections, we have the labs. We can see every information in this calendar. A little bit about the class. Number one, the prerequisite for this class is high school algebra. So if you have done high school math, you're good. We don't expect you to see coding before. It's useful, but not required. There are a few important rules I want to mention. Number one, all the homework assignments that are due by 11:59 San Diego time. All the time we mention in this class at San Diego time. The textbook we use is our in-house developed textbook from this platform called Stepic. I'll talk about the textbook in a little bit. It's free, you don't have to pay. It is important that you follow the instructions on the write-up very carefully. And also, we don't allow late work unless it is due to a documented emergency. What we will learn in this class, number one, you're gonna be able to formulate a solution to solve a computational problem using Python. You're gonna also learn a little bit of abstractions such as variables, functions, and also you know how to debug and test your code. The textbook that we use is from Stepic. You just need to click on this link in here to allow you to go to the site of the textbook is free. I think I'm already in here. So you can see all the materials in here. We also have reading assignments for them, like what you should read for each day of the class. We'll talk about that in a little bit. We have a brief schedule for what we'll do for each week. Week 1, so summer sessions are 5-week long. So for week 1, what we do, week 2, these are the topics, all the way to week 5. There are a few things. We have a weekly quiz for the first 4 weeks. All the quizzes that are released on Friday morning, like early morning, and then due at midnight. Basically 24 hours to do it. All the labs are on Wednesdays. We'll release them on Wednesday morning, and they're due on Wednesday night. The midterm and the finals, they are also released on the specific date mentioned in the calendar. All the PAs will be released on Monday. They are due by Sunday midnight. So the due dates are kind of fixed, okay? So for week 1, for example, we'll talk about data types and functions. That's kind of the plan for today. We'll also talk a little bit about conditional statement and strings later. These are the readings from static, or quiz 1, or PA 1, and lab 1. For week 2, very similar. Week 3 is a little bit special. Week 3, we decided to cancel the lab because we have a midterm scheduled for Wednesday, week 3. And then for the last week, it's a little bit special again. We don't have a quiz for week 5. We'll have a final on the Saturday of week 5 based on the web rec. So you kind of can see all the scheduling here. This is my email. Feel free to email me, and my office hours are Monday, early in the morning. Just come to the Zoom section, which is the same Zoom link as our lectures. We have tutors available to help you. And as I've shown, you can see all the hours they have in here through this calendar. Just go to their Zoom link and seek help. The class has a few components. Number 1 is the class section, which is lectures. We're going to host live lectures. I feel like that's a better way for me to interact with you all instead of pre-recorded lecture. Attendance are not required. I understand you may be all over the world during summer, and some of you may be doing interns or maybe working full-time. So I won't force you to come to live lectures. I would strongly recommend, if you can, come to live lectures. You have a much better learning experience if you do that. Okay, so lecture attendance are optional, and all the lectures are recorded. I will post them on at STEM. We have reading assignments. As you can see on the schedule, they are not checked. It's up to you to decide what to do. You have better learning experience if you do the reading. We have a weekly quiz on Fridays. We have 1 midterm. Midterm is on Wednesday, week 3. Final is on Saturday, week 5. We have 5 programming assignments, so 1 assignment per week. We also have problem sections. They are kind of scheduled as discussion sessions. What we do in problem sections are basically Q&A for you to understand the PAs, and if you need help, definitely there are designated tutors during the problem sections to help you. We also have labs. We have a scheduled lab section for 2 hours every Wednesday, but again, you have the whole day Wednesday to do it. We will staff the Wednesday lab hours with our tutors. So if you need help about the lab, just feel free to pop in during those lab hours. So if you look at it for every Wednesday, Wei Ji and Jessica, they will be available to help you. All right, so if you say, I have some question about the lab, just pop in. But if you don't have any questions, you don't have to show up. You just finish the lab, submit them on time, you're good. Okay. So that's about different components. The grades will be determined, number 1, weekly quizzes, 4%. All the programming assignments together, 35%. The labs are 12%. Midterm and final, 15 and 26%. So we use standard letter grade scale in this class. So sometimes I make small adjustments when I assign letter grades, but you can assume the letter grade we use for this class are no worse than standard letter grades. There are a few requirements. Number one, your final exam and oral PA portion of the class must be like a passing grade. If you failed on either of these one, you will fail the class. Okay. If you have any grading questions, like there is a grading error for the assignments or for the quizzes or the exams, you have 3 days to submit your regrade request. After that, that grade is set in stone. For the last assignment and the final exam, you only have 1 day to submit any regrade request. For summer, sometimes you may have a little bit less than a day, but we'll do our best to give you some time to look at your grade and report any grading errors there may be. Okay. So that's about grading. For academic integrity, it is very, very, very important that you follow the guidelines described in here. The rule of thumb is, number one, you are not allowed to collaborate with anyone in the class or outside the class to work on the assignments. When I say anyone, it includes any help you may get from your friends, other students, your private tutors, ChatGPT, or many other tools you may find online. You must complete the assignments by yourself. And I reserve the right to interview any student if we found your assignment to be suspicious. Okay. If you fail my interview, you may be reported to the academic integrity for violations of academic integrity policy of CSE 8A. So you work on every assignment by yourself, but you can get all the help from the staff, from me. Okay. So that is basically the academic integrity in a nutshell for CSE 8A. You should sign this form before the end of week 1. If you don't do it, you are not going to get any grade for this class until you finish signing up the form in here. There are other important policies. Number one, diversity and inclusion. I'm not an expert in this field of diversity and inclusion, but I do know every student, no matter where you're from, no matter what your religion or anything, should be comfortable learning in my class. No discrimination against anything is tolerated in my class. Okay, everyone should have a positive learning experience in the class. If I said anything or our staff said anything that may be offensive to you, please let us know. We will change. And we expect professional behaviors between our students, between staff and student and staff. So everyone should be comfortable learning. Okay, that is the goal. If you have any disability request for accommodations, please let me know as early as possible. Your paperwork may be pending in the OSD office, but I can give you the accommodations as long as you tell me what kind of accommodations you are expecting. Let me know as early as possible. If there are any basic needs or food insecurities, UCSD has the hub. It has this office can provide tools to help our students if needed. So this is a very brief overview of the syllabus for this class. Okay, the next thing that we will be working on the basic idea of what will be covered in CSE 8A. Okay. So CSE 8A is an introduction to computer science, and computer science by default is not about programming. Programming is just a tool for us. Computer science is more about problem solving with the help of computers. In other words, computers are our tools. You're given a problem, you're trying to solve it. For example, like self-driving cars, right? So if you have the images that a camera can take How can you detect different objects in that image? Not only do we want to detect those objects accurately, you also have to do it quickly, right? You can't say it takes me 2 hours to detect there's a pedestrian in front of me. It's not going to work, right? So those are about the problems we try to solve, and we use computers to help us. The computers, they are fast, and in fact, they are much more reliable than humans. So that's about computer science. Programming is just a way for us to speak to the computer. So you have a problem that you want to solve, and we as humans try to design an algorithm or like ideas. We say, this is the idea, we can solve it, and then we translate this algorithm into a piece of code or program, and from here, we give it to the computers. So that's kind of how the whole process works. What we will focus on this step. So we'll kind of say, here's a small problem, formulate on your idea, design your algorithm, and then run it, right? As you can see, your idea may be incorrect to start with, or your idea is almost correct, but there are kind of small loopholes you have to fix. So designing a good idea, in fact, is very important. And the process to convert your algorithm into code, for beginners, sometimes we make mistakes. Our code doesn't work as expected. We got to fix our code. So this is also part of the learning goals for CSE 8A. So it's an introduction, okay, to what CSE is about, and we'll learn Python coding. If you think about what a computer is, it has input devices, for example, keyboard or microphone or cameras, webcams, and then you throw your data into a computer. The workhorse of a computer is the CPU, and then all the data you need to process by the CPU in general are stored in the main memory. We call them RAMs. And sometimes RAMs is not big enough. People use hard disks or secondary storage to hold those bigger amount of data. And also there are pros and cons. It's a little bit beyond what we need to know for 8A. But the idea is you have your input devices, you basically have the data that you want to throw in, and the computer executes the program we kind of created, and then this is kind of the result. The result is given to the output, like a monitor or printer, or sometimes you write a file to the disk. Whatever it is, the computer basically executes what we ask it to do, right? So this is kind of a picture of the physical devices that we may interact. When we write our code in 8A, we are not concerned about the physical devices. In other words, Python is a programming language that you can create programs in Python without knowing too much about the underlying hardware. And we do this all the time in our life. For example, you may see like you drive a car, but you may not know how the engine worked. You may not know how the brake system worked. You may not know why the car moves forward or backward when you switch the gears. But it doesn't stop us from becoming a pretty decent driver, right? So it's the same thing. Although we are not 100% sure about the exact hardware that the program is running on, our program can still run pretty good. Okay, so that's what we have. If you take more CSE classes, you're gonna know more about the details of these devices. Okay, in fact, it's important to know, but we can't cover everything in a single class. So in this class, we'll focus on the high-level programming language, Python. Okay. So like I said, you have the input, which is the data. Your program would take care of the input data and generate output. Not all programs would need the input. Like a program that calculates, for example, the value of pi, it doesn't need any input. It just keeps doing the repeated calculation again and again. And not all programs would generate an output. Although most of them will give you some kind of feedback, but neither of them is a kind of a necessary component of a program. Your program may just run and just do nothing. It's possible. Or do something that takes forever to run. So in this class, we will interact with all three of them. Okay. So our focus is this part. We'll focus on how you write your program, and we'll kind of test. Okay, so how do I know if your program is right or wrong? I throw some input to your program and see if your program generates the correct output. That's in general how we test everyone's assignment. Is to say, I throw some input in here and see if your code generates the correct output. Let's kind of think about the programs that we use every day. For example, all of them are high-tech companies, right? Microsoft, Google, Amazon, and all these different companies. We use them on a daily basis. Probably not many of you use Facebook, but you have other social media that you use. Okay, these high-tech companies, they create programs, but if you think about it, the credit card that you use, the car that you drive, the cell phone that you use, everything now runs on some sort of software. So our life is indispensable from these programs that we use on a daily basis. Without them, nothing would run. For example, you may not even be able to get the electricity if the software for the electricity companies crash, right? So it's everywhere in this society. When you think about the programs that the computers execute compared with human brains in general are more creative, are more imprecise. The machines that we have, they are more precise but less creative. With the help of advancement in AI, the gap between the creativity is getting smaller and smaller between machines and human brains. Okay, so it's a very exciting era for people who are in the computing field because of the recent development in AI, but we're still far away from total replacement of human laborers from machines. But it's a big milestone. It's a big milestone. So the technology will be very disruptive in my mind. In the near future, I think a lot of job displacement will happen, but new jobs will be created. So it's important that everyone knows a little bit of programming, no matter what your major is, because it's going to become a language that everyone almost needs to know in the future. That's, again, my personal opinion. Okay. So for human language, we have different languages, right? So we know English for sure. Personally, I also know this is Chinese, and I think maybe there are Indians or other languages in here. So humans speak different languages, so are machines. There are many different languages. Like we know Python is a language that we use in this class. If you take more CSE classes, you're going to learn Java. The next language, you're going to learn C, learn C++, and then you may learn many other languages. Just like humans use different languages, machines can understand different languages. Then what's the catch? The catch is these different languages, they have their strength and weakness. Like for example, for C code, it is very close to the hardware, it's fast, but it doesn't give you many tools that are available in Python or Java. So the catch is once you know one language, you can probably easily learn other languages. So I wouldn't recommend that you spend another class just to learn another language. Maybe 8A is a class you take, and then AB or 11 is the next class. Those are the only two classes that you probably will spend. The focus is on learning a new programming language. After that, we just use a new language if needed, okay? If we think about this sequence of 0 and 1s, this is the only language that machines understand, 0 and 1s. They are also the ASCII encoding of these letters. So you can think, oh, Triton, this means Triton. But for machines, they don't understand anything in this end. All they know is these sequence of 0 and 1s. In order for humans to understand what these 0 1s are, machines will convert them into these letters so humans can read them. Okay. So this is kind of how humans and machines interact. The machines work on their binary stuff. Humans work on our language, and programmers, in fact, is in between a regular user of a software and the machine. So we understand both sides. When you think about the programming languages that we're going to learn, like in Python, it kind of serves as the middleman between the machines and the humans, okay? So let's spend some time creating our first program, Hello World. All right, so we're going to use AddStem as our platform. I think I already opened up the tab. So in the lesson 1, week 1, Tuesday, you're going to see this Hello World. You write a program that would print Hello World. And in here, you can see on the right side, this is where you write your code. And if you click on this button, you can see all the files that you have. Python code has an extension of .py. The extension really doesn't matter, but in general, we use .py as the extension. And this is called the terminal. This is where the input and output of our program will be displayed. So you can kind of write your code in here, and then once you click on mark, in fact, I put in a small greeter in here that would run our code and see if our code works well. So we'll print a hello world, print, for example, hello world, and that's it. So AddStem would automatically save it, but you can do Control S to save it. You can see all changes are saved. You can run your code, Python hello.py is going to print out this for us. You can also click on mark. This is what you do for your programming assignment. If you click on mark, it's going to run the code. And in here, looks like I only have one test. This is the only test. And there is a bug. So the difference shows between your output and the expected output. The red is the expected output. Sorry, the red is my output. This is the expected output. There is a difference between them. You say, well, what's the difference? Well, uppercase, lowercase, capitalization, right? So I need to change it in here, and I can mark again. Well, looks like I passed. I passed the exercise. And you can submit as every time you click on mark, it's going to run your code against the solution and see if your code generated the right output. You can mark as many times as you want to. We will use the last submission, the last one, not the highest one. Okay, so make sure you mark your final version of your code before you finish. So this is our first Hello World program.